Jesus, I surrender all to Him. I freely give. I will ever love and trust Him in His presence daily live.
The 14th of December 1911, Volume 10. The Word of Jesus is Son. It nourishes the mind and satiates the heart with love. I continue my most bitter days, though resigned to the will of God. My always lovable Jesus, if He makes Himself seen, is always afflicted and taciturn. It seems He no longer wants to pay attention to me in anything. This morning, making Himself seen, He put 2 earrings on my ears, so shining as to look like 2 suns. Then He told me, "My beloved daughter, for one who is all intent on listening to me, my word is Son, which not only delights the hearing, but nourishes the mind and satiates the heart with me and with my love." They don't want to understand that all my intent is to have all of you intent within me, without paying attention to anything else. Look at her, pointing to someone, with her way of scrutinizing everything. She pays attention to everything. She is affected by everything, up to the excesses, and even in holy things. This is nothing but a living outside of me. And one who lives outside of me by necessity feels herself very much. She thinks she does honour to me, but it is the opposite. End of the reading. The 14th of December 1912, Volume 11. One who lives in the divine will lives in the most holy humanity of Jesus, in order to do what He does and embrace everyone and everything. One who lives completely in His will is not tempted. This morning, when my always adorable Jesus came, He tied me with a golden thread and told me, "My daughter, I do not want to tie you with ropes and chains. Iron shackles and chains are used with the rebels, but with the docile, with those who want no other life than my will, and who take no food other than my love, a thread is enough to keep them united with me. And many times I don't even use this thread. They are so deeply into me that we form one single thing. So if I use the thread, it is almost to joke with them." While Jesus was tying me, I found myself in the endless sea of the will of my Jesus, and consequently of all creatures. And I went wandering in the mind of Jesus, in the eyes of Jesus, in the mouth of Jesus, in the heart of Jesus, as well as in the mind, in the eyes, and in everything else of the creatures, doing all that Jesus did. Oh, how Jesus embraces all without excluding anyone. Then Jesus added, "One who lives in my will, embracing everything, praying and repairing for all, takes within herself the love that I have for everyone. She encloses in just herself the love that I have for all. For as much as I love her, she is equally dear to me and beautiful. She leaves everyone behind." Then, having read that one who is not tempted is not dear to God, and since it seems to me that for a long time I have not known what temptation is, I mentioned this to Jesus, and He told me, "My daughter, one who lives completely in my will is not subject to temptation, because the devil does not have the power to enter my will. Not only this, but he himself does not want to enter, because my will is light. And in front of this light, the soul would recognize his tricks and would therefore make fun of the enemy. The enemy does not like this mockery, which are more terrible for him than hell itself. So he does all he can to stay away from her. Try to get out of my will, and you will see how many enemies will swoop down on you. One who lives in my will always carries the flag of victory high, and none of the enemies dare to confront this impregnable flag. End of the reading. The 14th of December 1916, Volume 11. Jesus slept and worked in order to give true rest to souls in God. I was offering my sleep to Jesus, saying to him, I take your sleep and I make it my own, and by sleeping with your sleep, I want to give you the contentment as if another Jesus was sleeping. Without letting me finish what I was saying, he told me, Ah, yes, my daughter, sleep with my sleep, so that in looking at you I may reflect myself in you, and as I gaze at myself, I may find all of myself in you, because you are sleeping with my sleep. And so that as you gaze at yourself in me, we may be in accord in everything. I want to tell you why my humanity subjected itself to the weakness of sleep. My daughter, the creature was made by me, and as my own, I wanted to keep her on my lap in my arms, in continuous rest. The soul was to rest in my will and sanctity, in my love, in my beauty, power, wisdom, etc. All these acts which constitute true rest. But what sorrow! The creature escapes from my lap, and trying to detach herself from my arms in which I hold her tight, she goes in search of vigil. Vigil are passions, sin, attachments, pleasures. Vigil, the fears, the anxieties, the agitations, etc. So, as much as I long for her and call her to rest in me, I'm not listened to. This is a great offence, an affront to my love, which the creature takes into no consideration, and she gives not a thought to repair for it. This is why I wanted to sleep, to give satisfaction to the Father for the rest which souls do not take in him, by repaying him for all. And while sleeping, I impenetrated true rest for all, making myself the vigil of each heart, in order to free them of the vigil of sin. And I so much love this rest of the creature in me, that I not only wanted to sleep, but I wanted to walk, in order to give rest to her feet, work, to give rest to her hands, palpitate and love, to give rest to her heart. In sum, I wanted to do everything, so that the soul might do everything in me, and would take rest, and so that I might do everything for her, provided that I could keep her safe within me. End of the reading. The 14th of December 1927, Volume 23. Just as the human will formed the bad seed, the divine will, reigning in the creature, will form the good and holy seed. How God, in giving a good to the creature, first encloses the whole value of that good in one alone, and then gives it to the other creatures. Continuing in my abandonment in the divine will, and feeling myself all surrounded by the endless sea of its light, I was praying my beloved Jesus to hasten, to quickly make his will known, so that by knowing it all might long for his kingdom, to let themselves be dominated by it. And my lovable Jesus told me, My daughter, the human will formed the bad seed and the woodworm in the human generations. Now the sun of the light of my divine will must very much break down this bad seed, and invest it and destroy it by dint of light, of heat, and of knowledges. So each knowledge I manifest to you on my divine fiat is a blow that I give to the human will, in such a way that all the knowledges about it will form as many blows to make it die, and its light and heat will pulverize it, will burn the bad seed away, and will form the good and holy seed of my will in the human generations. And as I keep manifesting the knowledges about it, I sow its seed into your soul. I prepare the soil and the development of the seed, and the light and heat of my divine volition lay the wings of light of my will over the seed, more than a mother who hides her baby within her womb. in order to fecundate it, multiply it, and let it grow within its womb of light. And just as one creature, by doing his human will, produced the bad seed and formed the ruin of the human family, so will another creature, by making the human volition die, produce the seed of the divine fiat. By giving it life and dominion within herself, she will restore what creatures lost and will form their salvation, sanctity, and happiness. If one creature was able to form so many evils by doing his will, why can another creature not form all goods by doing my will and giving it freedom to form its life and to form its kingdom in her? Then I continued thinking about the divine fiat, and I said to myself, but how can this kingdom of the divine will come into the midst of creatures if sin abounds and no one gives a thought to wanting this kingdom? On the contrary, it seems that they think about wars, about revolutions, about putting the world upside down, and it seems that they are consumed with rage because they cannot achieve completely their perverted designs, lying in ambush, waiting for the occasion. Does all this not drive the grace of a good so great away? And my beloved Jesus, moving in my interior, told me, my daughter, I have you, who are worth more than anything, and putting everything aside, I will look at your value, that is, the value of my divine will in you, and I will dispose my kingdom in the midst of creatures. A person is worth according to the value that is entrusted to him. If my will contains an infinite value that surpasses the whole value of all creatures together, one who possesses it before the divine majesty has the value that surpasses everything. So for now I have you, and this is enough for me in order to dispose the kingdom of my will. Therefore all the evils of this time, and they are too many, do not equal the great value of my divine will operating in one creature alone. And my will use these evils to make a heap out of them, and with its power to banish them from the face of the earth. The same happened in redemption. Evils had not been banished from the earth, on the contrary, they abounded more than ever. But since the sovereign queen came upon earth, the creature who possessed the divine will within herself, who enclosed the whole value of the good of redemption, looking not at others, nor at their evils, I looked at the value of this celestial creature, which was sufficient to impetrate my descent upon earth. And in view of she alone who possessed our prerogatives and the value of a divine and infinite will, I gave and formed the kingdom of redemption in the midst of creatures. So in disposing the good of redemption, I wanted to find the whole value of it within my mama. I wanted to place in safety inside her maternal heart all the goods that my coming upon earth into the midst of creatures was to enclose. And then I conceded the good that the sovereign Queen of Heaven was asking of me. I acted like a prince when he must leave for a destination of more conquests. He chooses the most faithful one. He entrusts his secrets to him. He places in his hands the whole value of the expenditures needed for the conquests wanted. And trusting this one alone, who knows he possesses the whole value of the conquest desired, he takes leave triumphantly, knowing that the victory is certain. So I do. When I want to give a good to creatures, first I trust one of them alone. I place in her the whole value of that good, and then, as though assured, I give the good that she asks of me for the other creatures. Therefore think of enclosing within yourself the whole value that the kingdom of my will must contain, and I will think of disposing all the rest that is needed for a good so great. End of the reading. The 14th of December 1928, Volume 25. The Tree of the Divine Will. The Single Act of God. One who lives in the divine will forms the echo in all created things. I was worried about the publication of the writings of the divine will, and I felt bothered at the many questions they asked me, and I said to myself, Jesus alone knows my martyrdom and how tortured I felt when authoritative people were talking about wanting to publish them, so much so that no one could manage to calm my interior martyrdom and make me surrender to say fiat. Only Jesus, with his seducing persuasion, and by striking in me the fear of the great evil I might do if I went out, even just slightly from the divine will, could induce me to say fiat. And now, in seeing it go so slowly, I remember my interior struggles, my hard martyrdom because of this publication. What is the utility of so many pains suffered? Who knows who will see this publication? Maybe Jesus will make me content by letting me see it from heaven. But while I was thinking of this and other things, I began to pray, and I saw before my mind a tree loaded with fruits that emitted light, and my sweet Jesus was crucified in the middle of this tree, and the light of these fruits was so great that Jesus was eclipsed within this light. I was surprised, and Jesus told me, "My daughter, this tree that you see is the tree of my divine will, and since my will is sun, its fruits turn into light and form many other suns. The centre of its life is I, and this is why I am in the middle of it. Now, these fruits that you see are all my truths that I have manifested on my divine fiat. They are all in the act of giving birth to their light in the bosom of the generations, and those who should occupy themselves with them and hasten, but do not do it, prevent the fruits of this light from forming births of light from themselves, as well as the great good of this light. Therefore you must be consoled in your tortures and martyrdoms, because between you and I we are in order, nor would I have tolerated even the shadow of opposition to my will in you. It would have been my greatest sorrow, nor would I have been able to say, the little daughter of my will gave me her will as gift, and I gave her the gift of mine, while this exchange of wills is one of my greatest joys and yours. If there is any fault, it is from those who neglect it. Therefore do not want to afflict yourself, or be bothered at the questions they ask. I myself will be in you, to administer to you the light and the words that are needed. You must know that this is my interest more than your own." I continued to think about the divine fiat, and my sweet Jesus added, "My daughter, within us, in our divinity, one single act is enough to do everything. That act is will, thought, word, work, and step. So a single act of ours is voice that speaks, it is hand that operates, it is foot that walks, and enveloping everything. If the creature thinks, works, speaks, and walks, it is the virtue of our single act that, echoing in each act of the creature, communicates the good of the thought, of the word, and of all the rest. Therefore it can be said that we are the bearer of all creatures and of all their acts. Oh, how offended we feel when our act bears voice, thought, work, and step, but not only is it not done for us, but to offend us. Creatures use our very acts to form the weapons with which to wound us. Human ingratitude, how great you are! Now one who does our divine will and lives in it unites herself to our single act, and forming one single act of the will with ours, she flows together with our act, and together with us she makes herself thought, voice, work, and step of all, and oh, how we enjoy, because our virtue, investing the human littleness, makes her the bearer of all the acts of creatures together with us. And she uses all our acts, not to form weapons with which to wound us, but to form weapons with which to defend us, to love us, and to glorify us. So we call her our warrior who defends our rights. After this, I was following the divine fiat in the creation. I felt I wanted to make everything my own. The sun to give him the glory of the light and of the heat. The sea to give him the glory of that murmuring that never ceases. I would like to have everything in my power to be able to say, "You have given me everything and I give you everything." But while I was thinking of this and other things, my beloved Jesus moving in my interior told me, "My daughter, how beautiful is the living in my will. Your echo reaches everywhere. Wherever my divine will is present, and it is everywhere, there does your echo reach. So your echo resounds in the sun, in the sea, in the wind, in the air, and penetrating even into heaven, it brings to your Creator his very glory, love, and adoration. And my divine will does not feel alone in all created things. It has the company of the echo of the one who lives in my divine volition. And it feels all the love and the glory that it spread in the whole creation being returned to it." End of the reading.
All to Jesus I surrender, all to him I freely give. I will ever love and trust him, in his presence daily live. I surrender all. I surrender all to thee, my blessed Savior. I surrender all to Jesus I surrender, humbly at his feet I bow. Worldly pleasures all forsaken, take me, Jesus, take me now. I surrender all. I surrender all to thee, my blessed Savior. I surrender.
The 14th of December 1931, Volume 30. One who does the divine will is carried in the arms of its immensity. Man, citadel of God. Difference between one who lives and one who does the divine will. I am always back in the divine volition. It seems to me that my little soul takes its flight within its light to be consumed and lose my life in it. But no, while I consume myself, I rise again to new love, to new light, to new knowledge, to new strength, to new union with Jesus and with his divine will. O happy resurrection that brings so much good to my soul. It seems to me that my soul in the divine will is always in act of dying to receive the true life and form little by little the resurrection of my will in its own. Then my highest good Jesus, visiting my little soul, told me, "My daughter, our will is the prime point and the unmovable and unshakable support of the creature. She is carried in the arms of our immensity, in such a way that inside and outside of her nothing vacillates, but everything is solidity and insurmountable strength. Therefore, we want nothing but our divine will to be done, so as to find in the depth of her soul our dear sacrarium, the hearth that always burns and is never extinguished, the light that forms the divine and perennial day. And since our will, when it reigns in the creature, gets rid of all that is human, it happens then that from the centre of her soul she gives us divine acts, divine honours, divine prayers, and love that possesses invincible strength and insurmountable love, so much so that as you in my will wanted to embrace all the works of those who are in heaven and of the creatures who are on earth, so that all might ask that the divine will be done on earth as it is in heaven, all the works remained marked by the great honour of asking that my fiat be the life of each creature, and that it may reign and dominate in them. And our divinity received the greatest honour, that all works would ask for the life, the kingdom of the divine will. No deed of grace is conceded by us if it is not signed by the golden signature of our will. The doors of heaven do not open but for one who wants to do our will. Our paternal knees do not adapt to take into our arms, to let her rest in our loving bosom, but one who comes as daughter of our will. Here then the great diversity that our Supreme Being used in creating the heavens, the sun, the earth, and so forth, from the way of creating man. In the created things it placed an enough, in a way that they can neither grow nor decrease, although it placed in them all the sumptuousness, the beauty and magnificence of the works come out of our creative hands. On the other hand, in creating man, since we had to hold our dwelling place in him, and therefore our will dominating and operating, it did not place an enough, no, but it gave him the virtue of doing multiplicity of works, of steps, of words, but one different from the other. Our will in man would remain hampered if it did not give him the virtue of doing works ever new, not subject to doing only one work, of saying the same word, of moving his steps on one path alone. He was created by us as King of creation, because his Creator, the King of Kings, was to dwell in him. It was right that he who formed the dwelling for our divine being would be the little king who was to dominate the very things created by us. And he himself, for love of us, was to have the power to do not just one work, but many new works, sciences to be able to start new things, also to give honour to he who dwelled inside of him, and who, remaining with him in intimate conversation, would teach him many beautiful things to do and say. Therefore, our love in creating man was insuperable, but so much that it was to overwhelm all centuries, to give love and ask for love and form in him the kingdom of our divine will. We have no other aim upon creatures, nor other sacrifice, but for them to do our will, and this in order to give man the right to be king of himself and of created things, and to be able to dwell in him with our decorum and honour, as our citadel, a royal palace that belongs to us. After this, while I continued my abandonment in the divine volition, my beloved Jesus added, "My good daughter, you must know that our will has its life, its dominion, its dwelling place, its centre in our divine being. It forms one single thing with us and our very life. From its centre it emits its rays full of its life that fills heaven and earth. Now, for one who lives in our will, her acts are formed in the centre of its life, that is, in our divine being. On the other hand, one who only does our will also does good, but does not live in it. Her acts are formed in the rays that it emits from its centre. There is a difference between one who could operate in the light that the sun spreads from the centre of its sphere and one who could rise into its centre of light. This one would feel the consummation of her being and the rising again of her being in that centre of light in such a way that it would be difficult for her to detach herself from within that sphere of light. On the other hand, the others who operate in the light that fills the earth do not feel the intense power of the light that consumes them, nor that of being able to rise again in the same light. And even though they do good, they remain as they are. Such is the difference between one who lives in and one who does my will. So for as many acts as she does in it, so many times does she rise again to divine life and is consumed and dies to what is human. How beautiful are these resurrections in the soul! It is enough to say that they are formed by the wisdom and mastery of the divine artisan, and this says everything, all the beauty and all the goodness that we can do in the creature. End of the reading. The 14th of December, 1937, Volume 35. Just as human nature has its day, the divine will forms its own day in the depth of the soul of the creature who lives in it. Miracles that happen in the divine will. I felt immersed in the divine volition. It seemed that as I was doing my acts in the fiat within its waves of light, that light would become larger and would centralise itself more within me, and I felt a growing need to love it and to breathe it more than my own life. Without it, I felt out of breath, without warmth and without heartbeat. But as I came back to do my acts in the divine volition, I felt the breathing, the warmth and the divine heartbeat coming back to delight my poor existence. Therefore it is a need for me, a need of life, to live in the divine will. Then my sweet Jesus coming back to visit my little soul, all goodness told me, my blessed daughter, just as nature has its day in human life, during which all the actions of life are performed, in the same way my divine will forms its day in the depth of the creature who lives in my will. As the creature begins to form her acts in it, calling it to her as her own life, she starts her day, forming a most shining dawn in the depth of her soul. This dawn gathers its power, renewing in the creature the power of the Father, the wisdom of the Son, the virtue and love of the Holy Spirit. So she starts her day together with the most Holy Trinity, which descends in the most tiny acts and hiding places of the creature in order to live together with her and to do whatever she does. This dawn puts to flight the darkness of the soul, so that all becomes light for her, placing itself as a vigil sentry, so that all her acts may receive the light of the divine will. This dawn is the first rest of God within the room of the soul. It is the beginning of the eternal day, in which the life of the Supreme Being starts together with the creature. My will does not move, it is not able, nor does it know how to do without the adorable Trinity. At the most it goes forward, being the actor, but always pulling with it, in an irresistible way, the adorable Trinity, forming the divine chamber in which the divine persons can enjoy their beloved creature. Wherever it reigns, my will has the power to centralise everything, even our divine life. How beautiful is the beginning of the day of one who lives in our fiat. It is the enchantment of all the heaven. If the celestial court was subject to envy, he would envy the one who is so fortunate as to possess within her soul, while still living in time, the beginning of the eternal day, the precious day in which God begins to live his life together with the creature. Now, as soon as she begins the second act in the divine volition, the sun of my eternal will rises. The fullness of its light is such as to invest the whole of earth, visiting all hearts and bringing the good morning of light and new joys to all the celestial court. This light is crammed with love, adoration, thanksgiving, gratitude, glory, and benediction. But whom do these belong to? To the creature who with her act in my will made the sun rise that shines over all, so that all may find the one who loved God for them, the one who adored him, thanked him, blessed him, and glorified him. Everyone finds the thing that he was supposed to do for God. She compensates for everyone. One act in my will must enclose everything. It has the power and the capacity to make up for everyone and to do good to all. Otherwise it could not be called act done in my will. These acts are full of unheard of prodigies, worthy of our creative work. Now, as she turns to her third act in our will, the full afternoon of our eternal sun is formed within the creature. Do you know what she gives us with this full afternoon? She prepares a banquet for us. And do you know what she gives us for food? The love we have given to her, our divine qualities. Everything carries the mark of our beauty and of our taste and pure perfumes. We like it so much that we eat our fill, and even if something may be missing for our status, since the creature is in our will, she is the owner of all our goods. She takes from our treasure whatever is needed and prepares for us the most beautiful banquet, worthy of our supreme majesty. And we invite all the angels and the saints to sit at this celestial banquet, so that they may take and eat with us of the love that we received from the creature who lives in our will. Now, after we've banqueted together, the other acts that she does in our will serve, some to form for us celestial melodies, some loving chants, some the most beautiful scenes, some others repeat our works which are always in action. In some she keeps us always busy. And when she has given course to all her actions in our will, we give her rest, resting together with her. After the rest, we begin the work, starting another day, and so forth. Many times this loyal daughter of ours, since true loyalty consists in living in our divine will, seeing that her brothers and sisters are about to be struck by the deserved chastisements for their sins, doesn't close her day, but prays and suffers to beseech graces for their souls as well as for their bodies. The life of one who lives in my divine will is new joy and glory for heaven, and help and graces for the earth. End of the reading. There are no more readings today. Have a blessed day.